us through this.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Thanks, Sanchita, for the introduction. And I hope you can hear me all right.
Yes, we can hear you perfectly. So if you can just share
Just,
the screen, then we will be able to know.
I am sharing my screen. Just a sec. But I'm sharing my entire screen. So allow
Yeah,
me. Let me present the full screen. Present. Can you see my screen?
yeah,
Yes.
this is perfect.
Just a minute. I'll just get started in a second.
Some issues, I think. I can't hear you.
I think Jitin's got disconnected. Let's
Yeah.
wait for him to join.
Sanchita, my apologies. I think my laptop just conked off at a wrong time. We are just, we are just getting started. Give me a minute.
Sure. Yeah. Unfortunately, I will notice that always the tech companies has the most tech problems, including us.
Yes,
Best laid
unfortunately.
plans, as they say.
Yeah.
And
Share from here.
yeah,
Let me just share from here. Okay. Uh,
it'll go here, then the full screen.
share. Are you even a host? Can you
Yeah, I just present.
present?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. And I think without camera is all right, right? Okay. So, um, thank you, Sanchita and Harris, for all the all the efforts you have taken, and thank you for having us. We are very excited. Hi everyone, my name is Jitin.
I'm Manish.
We are both co-founders of myTranscriptionPlace, Flores, and myMRPlace, and welcome to this webinar. Today, we are going to explore the impact of generative AI on qualitative data analysis. So, there's this exciting technology called generative AI that is, we have heard about it, a lot of potential, and in terms of how we derive insights from the text data. And I'm all excited to take you through what we have learned so far. Before we start, I mean, just out of curiosity, how many of you have used ChatGPT and tried analyzing qualitative data? Sanjita, do we, is there a way people can, kind of tell or kind of participate?
Yeah, I think we don't have a poll here, but that should have been set up earlier. But yeah, please
Oh,
feel
sorry.
free to unmute or chat, send your messages through chat. Yeah.
Anyone who has used ChatGPT to analyze qualitative data, uh, just a quick raise of hands. Okay, maybe
So
this was
Jacob
too quick.
says not for data analysis.
Not for data analysis. Okay. Okay.
Never do it for data analysis.
Never do it for
So it
data.
looks like people haven't really used it for data
Okay.
analysis.
Okay.
But
But other things you have tried. That's wonderful. So, yeah, I mean, then I think we have something to show, something interesting to show. We will at the end of the session. So let me, kind of take you through in terms of what we are going to share. We will talk about generative AI and why you should bother about it as a qualitative researcher. We will quickly talk about some cool concepts like transformers and LLM, and because it is relevant to qualitative analysis, and why generative AI is suddenly a big deal for knowledge workers. And from there, we'll turn our focus to QDA, briefly explore the current ways of analyzing qualitative data and challenges associated with each of those. Last but not the least, we'll talk about the types of solutions that are available in the qualitative data analysis market based on our knowledge, and then pros and cons of each. Again, it's a subjective perspective. And lastly, if time permits, we'll also show you how you can actually use chat gpt for analyzing the qualitative data. We will pick up a publicly available transcript and show you the same. So yeah, let's get started. What is generative AI? So, very simply, on a fundamental level, generative AI is a technology that creates output that resembles the input data. It is a subset of, I mean, AI is of many types, and it is a subset of AI that is kind of revolutionizing various sectors, including qualitative data analysis. So, generative AI models on a fundamental level use neural networks to identify the patterns and structures within the existing data to generate new content. Last year, there has been a host of generative AI tools that has been launched. In fact, as per the McKinsey report that was published in 2023 recently, the industries that are relying, most heavily on knowledge work, like qualitative research, like ours, are, likely to see the most disruption because of generative AI, and also they will potentially benefit the most. So it is kind of two-sided sword. We will also see a lot of disruption, but we'll also see a lot of value addition. So let's very quickly take a overview of the where all generative AI can impact the qualitative data, the qualitative research process. So if you see the slide, actually it is right from start to finish. You can use generative AI across the entire process. Sorry, my bad.
Sorry, hygiene.
Let me just put this on. I forgot to.
Yeah, so while Jiten talks about deals with this four, let me just kind of step in here. So across the entire value chain of qualitative research, generative AI can help you do various things, right?
Absolutely. So you can see that generative AI, you can ask, you can take advice on what research to do, what methods to use. You can ask even generative AI to create a draft research proposal. Generative AI can, write draft screeners as well as discussion guides, even moderate it for you and act as a participant. It can transcribe the data, it can code the data, it can create the presentation. So, in essence, because generative AI is going to can have an impact across the research process, it is imperative that qualitative researchers understand the opportunities and challenges, and hence have a very informed say in how AI is adopted by clients and agencies. Now, about the qualitative data analysis per se, if you look at why qualitative, across the process, generative AI can impact. But data analysis is where most of the people believe it will have a largest, impact. So this is the what I have taken from a survey done by Insight Platform, where they asked about 164 researchers, in terms of where do you see generative AI is going to have the largest impact. And most agreed that it will have impact across, but mainly it will be on the analyzing data. So before we move, let's take a little dip into the theory. And I mean, as a researcher, I'm sure you're curious about what is this sudden surge, about talks of generative AI, and what has fundamentally changed in terms of technology. And I thought it would be cool to kind of, give you a little context, because researchers are always about context, right? Um, so I think it started with, in 2017, where the, concept of transformer was introduced in a paper called Attention is All You Need. And this became a game changer because they introduced a concept called self-attention, where what are the transformers? So transformers are basically neural networks that are that can learn context by identifying and tracking the relationship in a sequential data. Now, sequential data can be a language, word, it can be images, it can be video, it can be any form of data. So transformer per se, can is like a big brain with billions of tiny cells, and each cell has a special power to remember and understand different parts of the sentence. Now, the power of this system is mainly because you don't have to, it can learn and adapt very quickly to a wide range of downstream tasks. It can work like a human brain and without needing any task specific training per se. So transformer is a broader concept, and then what is LLM? So LLM is a specific application of the transformers in the arena of language. So LLM is basically a large language model, which has been trained on a massive amount of data, text data, to understand and generate human-like language. It can find recurring themes in the data, extract and categorize data, do sentiment analysis, and create summaries. Sanchita, is the pace so good so far? I'm just taking a pause and
Yeah, yeah, I think it's perfectly fine. And if there's any questions, guys, please can you raise it in the chat? Then, yeah,
sure.
perfect. Let's go ahead.
Super. So, what has changed in last 1 year? I think ChatGPT was introduced in the little, little more than a year ago. And, if we talk specifically about the technologies or changes that affects the qualitative research. So first and foremost, LLMs are incredibly smart at, understanding the data, and you can ask LLM any question about any particular industry, and it will look through the available data sets and summarize the information for any particular industry. It can, tell you things like list of products available, price points, competing brands, their strengths and weaknesses, so on and so forth. So the secondary research is democratized. Anyone can do secondary research if you understand the right set of prompts. Secondly, the transcription accuracy has gone through a massive change, and automatic speech recognition, which is part of the generative AI, has actually improved like anything, especially the English transcription. And thirdly, of course, we have been talking about it, but the ability to summarize a large data set, which is a game changer for qualitative data sets. So let's understand the qualitative data analysis as a process, briefly. And this is something that you do as a researcher. I have just put it out on the screen so that, just to, kind of show that, this is not, just like, one step or two-step process. There are several steps involved into it. And essentially what we are trying to do, we are trying to transform the audio or video data into a useful information that business can use. It has transcription, analysis plan, sorting out the data. Then, some people do second level analysis, some don't. Then there is an interpretation, the whole process of, interpreting the data, culling out insights, and then putting it, into reports. So word report, largely presentations, right? Now, how do we do currently, what are the popular ways of doing a qualitative data analysis? So if you look at, there are several ways of kind of coding the data or doing the data analysis. You can actually and some of these ways kind of cut short the process from several steps into 2 or 3 steps, and so on and so forth. So one is note taking, where you're actually, the researcher is just sit through the interview, take the notes and sort out the data directly at the notes level itself. And then there are some of the researchers would hear the data and categorize directly themselves or take the help of third party, whatever is the case. Uh, and then some researchers like to have a transcript first and then, create an analysis frame and then put the data into the, um, categorize the data across the analysis set. Now, one more variation, and that is in the software form, which is the manual coding software, where you can load the transcript, you can load the codes or the analysis heads, and then make the code them manually one by one, and put the data. This is very popular across the academic world, and I think somewhat popular in the commercial qualitative research world. And then now the new generation which is coming, which is the automatic coding software, where you can automated software can do some automated coding, and we'll talk about each of those one by one. But let's look at what are the, I mean, depending on uh, what process you choose. I have seen that invariably there is a trade-off involved in terms of trade-offs are unavoidable. Pick up any process. So, for instance, note taking is like fast and most time saving, but at the same time, we are relying too much on the researcher's ability to hold the data. And if we are relying on one or two researchers, then doing large data sample becomes extremely difficult. So it's not really very scalable way of sitting through the interview and doing note taking. Uh, then there is also the fact that you are most interested in what respondent says. So you are only recording what respondent is saying. But then what about, moderator questions? I mean, we all know that how the question is asked, will change the way you look at the data. And, there is no way to retrieve that, what the moderator question was asked in this. Similar thing is from direct from audio. A lot of people create an analysis plan and then directly put the responses directly from audio. Again, you don't know what questions were asked, how the answers were arrived, and so on and so forth. And there's also a possibility of data loss, across both the methods, in terms of what if you just missed recording the data. Then transcript is a more thorough way of doing transcription first, and then doing a copy paste across the analysis heads is a more thorough way of doing it, but it is also very boring, repetitive, and time consuming. And then lastly, there are manual data coding software where, apart from they are also kind of time consuming and repetitive, but there is also one additional step, which is, to learn the operation of the software. There is a learning curve involved. I mean, some of the softwares that we have seen have like 50-page manual, in terms of just getting started, right? And then there is automatic data coding softwares. Again, while automatic data coding software looks like a solution to every problem that we have seen so far in the earlier approaches, the only the other thing that we have seen is if the codes are generated on their own, like Atlas.ti does it, you are actually, as a researcher, you have a very little control over the process. And every transcript will have its own codes, which means, kind of cleaning the data, will be far more tedious and far more cumbersome. So yeah, I mean, depending on whatever method you choose, there is always a trade-off involved. And now let's look at what generative AI can do and where it might be able to influence the process. So we talked about transcription, we talked about analysis plans. It's possible to create a plan directly from the discussion guide. Then there is data sorting, where we are already seeing a very high intercoder reliability. And we feel this is a place where there would be a lot of innovation that is expected to happen, because data sorting is the first step to the entire analysis process, and this where things improvise, the rest of the process will become really easier. So because second level analysis, if you look at it, LLMs can already summarize and create draft second level analysis pretty well. That's something that they're already good at. Once data sorting is done, I think, and then the interpretation and insight. This is the researcher's forte. This is the most crucial step of the process, and I think this process is not going to be automated for a foreseeable future. But yes, and that's a good thing, right? I mean, in terms of this is where we really require human intervention. This is where the most value addition happens. Once even the interpretation or insights are derived, actually you can directly export it into a presentation through a help of chat GPT or some other codes, and get a bare bone skeleton presentation that a researcher can start working on. Even that is available right now. So yeah, I mean, fundamentally, what is generative AI going to change in the process of QDA? Mainly, it will basically automate the repetitive task that we are doing right now, and it will give you a head start on the cognitively demanding task. So, with that, let me give presentation to Manish. Manish, can
Yeah,
you take us?
switch this.
Yeah.
Sorry for this. I know this is not TED level, but we're getting there.
Sorry. I think yeah.
Right. So you can still see my screen, right?
Want to come here?
Yeah, I'll just do that. Right over. So here's what I'm going to do now is actually walk you through some of the experiments that we have done in order to make sure that, as researchers, we want data, right? I mean, everything else is great. I mean, we believe in God, but data is very, very crucial, right? So what we did was we actually classified QDA software into two buckets. We looked at QDA software from the point of view of the traditional data coding software, which is essentially something that allows you to simplify the coding process in place of the just traditionally uh, doing it in Word or Excel or something like that, right? And then there is a whole other section which is now using generative AI for coding, and in fact, some tools are doing summarization as well, right? So, if you look at these two buckets, that's what we have been trying to address. So, what we did was we picked up three transcripts, right, which are completely publicly available information, so that there is no bias from our side, no cleaning involved, and stuff like that. And what we did was put these three transcripts through the paces of each of these software or some of these software. I mean, it has not been a perfect research method, but just kind of a broad understanding of where the software are, right? So the first things first, right? We looked at first approach without an analysis frame. So for all of us qualitative researchers, we would like to start with the end in mind, right? So we want to have an analysis plan so that we can code the data accordingly. But if you don't give an analysis frame input, what I mean here is that it cannot import an analysis frame. It will allow you to manually code this one transcript at a time. You can select part of the text or whole of the text and etc. When we did this, some of the outputs that we got, uh, I will come to those. The other approach we took was where it is doing auto coding entirely through a thematic analysis model. It's either using AI or their own their own models that they've developed over time. There are tools that have been in existence for some time now. So they have been, kind of working on this NLP modeling for a while now, right? And this is some of the output that we got from the NLP models. The output from this was, in general, it was quite all right, but it is going to pick up only themes that are present in the document, right? It is going to probably not have context of the whole project, right? It is probably, you know, it sometimes gives you the nesting that you require for certain specific things. But in general, whatever approach you take, whether it is, the NLP model or AI, you are left with a situation where, you still have to go in and fix things, right? So, and if you look at the output, even the output formats are quite different from what we are used to, right? So we like to see data in Word or in Excel, but these outputs are slightly different because they're looking at each code, and then you have to do a lot of basically messing around with the UI to make sure that you're getting out. Some of them also allow you to export in Excel, so that's a benefit for us, right? Uh, but you know, there are some advantages too, right? So there is absolutely no time investment in analysis plan building, and it gives a starting point where the researcher actually goes in and starts developing the analysis plan as the coding is done and as probably the model or the AI throws output, right? And then there are negatives too, like Jiten pointed out earlier. There is very little control over the output till you start getting involved in fixing it, right? So obviously there is time spent in cleaning, and I have noticed personally that each of them develop a code frame separately for each interview or each transcript, and then you have to go in and actually tag it again to codes that are present earlier, so that becomes an additional manual process. And like Jiten said, the tools are various, right? And some of them are very difficult to understand from the get-go, for at least for us who came from the Word and Excel life. So coming here and seeing a getting started manual of 50 pages is quite overwhelming. Any questions so far? Let me check. And Sanchita, just checking in on time. How are we doing on time?
We're good. I think we're just halfway through. So yeah, please continue.
Awesome. Right, so I can slow down. The second approach we took was to check the summary software. So coding is sorted, you can code it in different ways, but what next? So there are software out there that actually do the coding for you, and not the coding, sorry, summarization for you. And they have various kinds of output, but again, they operate on a transcript level. Summarization in some is possible at a project level, but not always. If you look at it, the advantages are obviously that the outputs are quite instant, right? I mean, uh, the researchers basically can move much faster and probably skip a step, right? But in research like healthcare, where the verbatims are super important, right? I don't know whether it is very applicable to directly generate a summary without actually looking at a transcript. So it has its applications when you're doing probably quick dipstick with consumers or something like that.
So I think you can get verbatims, but the point is that how you arrived at the output.
That is
That is
obviously
not
there.
there.
So like the cons, there is no control again over output generation, right? And see the benefit that most of us researchers, and not so much me, but all of you out there who have been doing this for a while, is you have context of the cultural scenario, context of the project, context of the history of similar projects. And therefore, when you are trying to generate insights, summarize and generate insights, your outputs are going to be that much richer. Unfortunately, the summarization software don't do that. Therefore, you get kind of a level one or maybe slightly deeper output from that. And again, then you end up investing time in fixing it.
It will be basically summaries, not insights.
Insights still have to be generated by the researchers. So let's look at auto coding with an analysis plan, right? So what we did was we created an analysis plan, which you see on the left hand side, and we decided to give it to a software. This is our own software, but because we didn't find anything that took the analysis plan in the format that we are used to, so we created our own. We tried to generate the output based on this particular analysis plan. When we generate the output, this is what we are getting. So on the top right, you are seeing the word format with the tagging done, but then you can also do it manually. The left hand side, you're seeing the place where you're actually uploading uh, the analysis plan, and on the right hand side you're actually seeing a list of transcripts, because this is the page from where you will get to the bottom right stage, where you're actually now comparing multiple analysis across transcripts. You're running filters and a lot of other features which you will get to see if you head on to Flores. But the point being that you are now working with in very familiar territory, and there are tools that help you do this, right? I'm just using an example here. The pros and cons, obviously, it gives you much better visibility at all stages of output. There is evidence, and then there is what do you say, audit trail available. It is time saving to a certain extent if you prepare right. Right. Obviously, therefore, the downside is if you don't prepare right, you're going to get junk out. Right. So that you have to be very careful about. The second thing is this is more akin to data sorting first, then actually doing the analysis. Right. So first, it takes all the or the need is, especially in healthcare, the need is to take the whole context of the question and the response to make sure that you're able to analyze it properly. And then again, untested, but this is even in the other other tools that we tested, the mixing up in case of multiple concepts or iterations also happens. So if you're showing a particular image and then asking them to interpret, and then showing maybe a different regime for medication and then asking them to interpret, that might give you complications. You guys are with me so far, right? Hmm. I'm just used to that. Sorry. So, in summary, right, just quickly, there are lots of tools. They take different approaches, like we just saw. In most cases, manual coding is not going away anytime soon. It is still required for you to get the appropriate output for insight generation, right? At the end of the day, we don't want to generally just trust machines with everything, right? We all have seen 1980. So, analysis paralysis. Now here this is where it becomes very interesting, because at least in some of the experience that I've learned from my colleagues and my network, there are very specific ways in which you will do the insight generation and report it. And if you look at some of these tools, what they have done is there is no one way or one process that you can define. So there are a host of analysis. I mean, you can spend a whole day trying to just figure out what different kind of analysis is being thrown out. Now, at a stage where you are probably planning a project or still developing your hypothesis, it might work. But when in real world, when you're executing the project, there's just so many options. You getting the right visualization or the right analysis for to help you as a researcher, that sometimes gets very tricky. uh, Different tools, learning curves are huge in general across the board, and that primarily is because the tools have been developed in an era where the other option was Excel and Word, where Excel and Word had their limitations. Today, Excel and Word also have improved, but these tools took a different path, and therefore the UI is different. The way their models require data is different, and therefore the platform is different. So it's not really something. It's basically time-consuming, cumbersome. But the good news is also that now most of these tools are able to mix in multi-mode. So let's say we have a qualitative interview and already done a screener, which is quantitative and which we did on the web. You can actually put that data together. So that is a very interesting possibility that this brings to us, right? So now let's talk about the elephant in the room. We talked AI, right? So the security and privacy considerations. So what has happened is there's been a lot of conversation recently, thanks to some of the software that are in use, about security and privacy considerations. So who owns the data? Is PII getting leaked out? So on and so forth. Now we got to remember that for AI, all the LMs are going to be super hungry for data, right? Because they need more data to enhance their networks, their neural networks, that is, and therefore give you better results, right? So in general, right? Some tools, at least what we have experienced, some tools tell you upfront, right, that we are going to send data to generator, OpenAI, like Atlas TI tells
the data that is getting
it
to
is getting
OpenAI.
sent to
So
OpenAI. So if you are not okay, don't generate analysis plan yourself. But there are some, and we had a recent example, no names mentioned, but where this was hidden away in the terms and conditions, and when discovered, it created a whole new other set of problems. So what our experience is that most of these tools or LLMs have in place the right data protection agreements, and they provide you APIs where you can control the inflow and outflow of data. Plus, there is no substitute at all for us being careful about PII when we are sending data out, right? Because that then again becomes a whole different challenge. right? If we inadvertently leak out PII, then you know who's responsible, right?
So
So
I think before basically using the tool, you want to check whether the data protection is in place or not, whether the DPAs are done
all
right or not.
right.
I mean, for instance, any tool that uses API, APIs are generally, the data that is exchanged through APIs is not really fed to the model.
Hmm.
That's generally the case. But yes, you want to ensure that this hygiene checks are done before you become enthusiastic about any tool and start using it.
Right. Right. And finally, I think we have time, so maybe we can actually do this. So what I would like to show you, so if we have sorted all our security and privacy concerns, and we are confident that we want to move ahead with these kind of LLM, there's a quick test for you to see where we just fed a transcript to chat GPT of all things, not even the model behind it, but chat GPT. And we got some really interesting responses, right? So let me just take a shot. Right. You can see my screen, I hope, where you're seeing the chat GPT output.
Did you see the window or?
Okay, let me just. It is in the same window like the
Yeah,
presentation.
Sanchita,
we
can
can,
you?
yes, we can see it.
Sorry, and I just stopped sharing.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can see it, right? Perfect. So what I did was I simply told ChatGPT that I need some help in analyzing the data. Of course, it gave me some rubbish about answering my question even before I had posed the question. So it told me how it wants to do stuff. Uh, then I ignored all that, obviously. Then I gave it a very specific instruction saying, this isn't what I wanted. I want to give you a transcript as an input. Of course, I said 3 parts because there is a limitation on ChatGPT, FYI, that does not, you cannot put in a 30-page transcript immediately. You have to put it in parts. So I gave it the first part of the transcript, the same transcript that you're seeing earlier, right? Uh, I gave it the whole transcript and I asked it a very simple question, right? The simple question was, of course, when it does come up, hey, I managed to put in a pretty long. So, can you code with citations the reasons for browsing online? So, just to take you back to the interviews themselves, they were actually a group discussion where the people were brought together and asked about their online shopping behavior, right? Their why they buy, why they don't like shopping online, what features they want from the sites and everything. And this was pertaining to fashion, and when I asked the question specifically about why do they browse online, it gave me a very neat output, which talks about access. So it gave me the coding, it gave me citations, verbatims, everything. So you can actually do this, and I did this for what they like, and I also did it for what they don't like. And you can see the code frame is there for you. The responses are tagged and everything is just peachy, right? I mean, you can take this and run with it. But again, the issue is now this data, because it was publicly available, I shared it without names, of course, to the to chat GPT. As you can see, I put in respondent 4, 5 and stuff. But again, that's where you have to be super careful because any names in the script and they will be showing up here. But this is what is possible, right?
I think the idea is to show the possibility that, without even using any tool, just by using the chat GPT, you can actually do some lot of, I mean, create some decent amount of. The only problem being that when you use chat GPT, you are actually exposing the data.
Data
So,
to
and this data would be used to kind of make the, LLM learn more. So you can't really use a private data. We had this public data, so we could do it. But the point is there are a lot of possibilities that generative AI present, and you can go and check out yourself if you can find some transcripts which are publicly available. There are a lot of sources where you
yeah.
can find a publicly available transcript. You can at least go and check those out.
And if you want to know what sources we used, happy to help. Just reach out through our even directly through our website and ask the question, and we will respond with the names. Right? Again, we were not too. Yeah, so I think Sanchita, we are doing as per calendar time. We are on time. It's 15 minutes to go. So we are open to the Q&A now, I think.
So thanks, Jitin. Thanks, Manish. So I think there is already a question which you can see, and for the rest, if you can please
Yeah.
also send in your questions, because I think you might have some questions which you would like Jitin and Manish to answer.
Yes. So Santosh asks, is there an impact of these tools tampering the analytics in terms of hallucinating? And any tips for easy validation steps which can come in handy?
Very
You have asked a fantastic question, Santosh, and this is something that we struggle to get these tools to do properly, right? So yes, unless you restrict the universe of the query to what data you have on hand, right? It will hallucinate. So, for example, when we did an experiment, and this is just a random experiment we did, where we asked a question about something specific in a transcript, but we had not limited. It was about a food item, right? And we suddenly asked the same, in the same sequence, we asked questions about the war that's going on, and it gave us an answer. Now, there was no discussion in the interview or the transcript about war, right? And it does hallucinate. So, any tips of validation? I think there are a few standard things that one can do.
So you can, first and foremost, when you ask a tool to do anything, ask for citation. If you see
Yeah,
Manish had said that, give me the answer and
correct.
give me citation. So point is, when you are able to get the original data, you would be able to validate. The other thing is, of course, when you see the answer, go and search the transcript and see in what context it is being said. There are softwares which give you the summary as well as citations as default, and there are softwares which just give you summary. In the case where you are just seeing the summary, you want to go back to the you want to search the transcript, go back to the data and see whether that is making sense.
Right. And
And sorry, one more thing. And then there are, prompts that you can design, where, you say that, I want you to remain confined only in the data that I am providing. Do not use your own knowledge to give me the, answers of the questions and so on and so forth. So there are prompts that, you can design and I think that then ChatGPT will, or for that matter, any other Llama 2 or anyone, will follow the protocol that
yes.
you have set for.
And one final other tip is there's no substitute to knowing your data. So when you are asking it to summarize numbers, for instance, or consolidate or present you some sort of distribution curve, remember that you have to be very specific about asking for unique values or cumulative values or things like that. Because if you just asked it to summarize the numbers, for example, a scale question asked to 15 respondents, what you get as an answer is going to be will have to be validated, unfortunately, manually, right? So you've got to be careful. But those kind of so there are mix of things in conclusion. Either in terms of setup and in terms of execution, you're careful, and then once you get the output, you do some random checks. Like we think that there is a need to start checking output initially for about 50% of the analysis, and then you can scale it down once the tool has built confidence on the output that it is generating. I hope that answered your question, Santosh.
Okay.
Okay, perfect.
Any other question?
Any other questions? Checking.
If you is there any other questions? Right, if you can also unmute yourself and then ask the questions if you would like to, or else I think we are just in time, and actually we still have 10 minutes, but so yeah, we can just end this session today and then give back 10 minutes to all of you. Thanks, Jitin, and thanks, Manish, a lot for doing this, for this sharing this with everyone, and hope all of you learn some things new about all the different softwares which are available, or all the different options which are there. Not always a software, but all the different options which are available, and how you can utilize some of those for your next research and analysis. Thanks all of you for joining. And if you have any questions, please feel free to also reach out to Jitin or Manish over LinkedIn if you're Oh, okay. Where can we see the recording? So we usually share it on our YouTube channel, and also if you are a part of the Design EU group on LinkedIn, and if you can just search for that, typically you will also find it through my profile. So yeah, and also I think Jitin and Manish can will be sharing it. So you have Kings. Are you from Lazada? Just to understand where, so then I can share it with you. Or
Miravia.
okay, let me also.
Miravia.
Okay, Miravia. Yeah, so I will share it with you. Just if you can ping me, or I will search for you and I'll share it with you. So this is this is basically uh, the group on LinkedIn. Usually, all our recordings of all the sessions, because we do it weekly, right? So we do weekly sessions.
Mhm.
So all the sessions are shared through this community on LinkedIn. Yeah. Thanks, everyone. Thanks.
Perfect.
Thank you so much. Thanks, guys.
Thanks. Thank you everyone for your time and have a wonderful rest of your day, wherever you
Yeah.
are.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.